Salutations once again, my fellow primates. This is Dustin Micheli at Press Monkey Independent Media, Press Monkey Media, PressMonkeyMedia.com. And if you're on Facebook, hit us up at Press Monkey and PressMonkeyIndependentMedia.com as well. Just wanted to come at you with a special cast this time around. I know I don't typically do domestic policies in the Colorado area all the time. I have been heavy on that lately with our recent Cost of Paradise cast that we just finished up recently with our last and final installment of that cast. We will be touching upon some of those topics again. For the time being, though, we're going to move on and do a little service for my fellow Coloradoans, whom I've been fortunate enough to be neighbors with for most of my life now. For more than half my life, I've been here in Colorado in the Roaring Fork Valley for coming up on 27 years, folks. It's a long time. I moved out here just after I was 20. I often tell people that this place, this area saved my life because I came from Indianapolis, Indiana, and I was living a life that was a little bit rough around the edges, to say the least. And I came out here and was able to find myself. The quiet, the solitude, the beauty of the nature here in the Roaring Fork Valley was able to help me find myself here. So I want to give it a service back. My first experience coming out here, politically speaking, of course, Bill Clinton had been elected president right after I moved out here, or right before I moved out here, rather. Sometime after that, Ben Nighthorse Campbell ran for a U.S. Senator, which he was fortunate enough to actually win his U.S. Senator spot. Everybody was so excited at the prospect of having a Native American on, the first Native American on the U.S. Senate, and all this stuff. And he was running as a Democrat at the time. Well, shortly after Senator Campbell won his bid for the Senate, he switched candidates, or he switched his affiliation to the Republican Party. That gave me a little bit of an inclination of how fickle and strange politics here in Colorado is. Colorado is a purple state, a deep purple state. It's so deep purple of a state that Smoke on the Water should probably be Colorado's theme song. But it is not Colorado's theme song. Smoke on the Water, that works in multiple ways because, obviously here in Colorado we legalized marijuana. Legalizing marijuana is one of our main issues here in Colorado. I would like to add to everybody and remind everybody that those who say that voting isn't important fail to look at places like Washington and Oregon and Colorado. Citizens' initiatives and things that go on the ballot that become law that we vote on are important. You might not be able to vote for a candidate per se or a party, and that's completely understandable in this day and age of duopoly partisan politics. But voting is still intrinsically important, and my example for that is that the people of Colorado have legalized recreational marijuana. We've legalized and made available medical marijuana. We've also virtually decriminalized marijuana to the point to where individuals can grow it themselves and have their own medicine and not have to worry about any of that. This was done through citizens' initiatives, through ballot initiatives, through petitioning and getting it on the ballot, and then everybody going to the polls and voting on it. This is the way things get done around here. It's the only way to subvert the will of the so-called politicians, who most of the time these days have become nothing more than glorified lobbyists, I would say. And that being said, I'm going to move on into our cast and talk about Colorado politics. Right ahead of the election here, we're just a few weeks away from the big day. So the midterm elections, and there's a lot of referendums and very important things on the ballots I would like to go through with you folks. I'm not going to go through all of them that are in my blue book that I got. And if you don't have your blue book and haven't looked through it, please do. Please go pick up your blue book. I picked mine up. We got ours in the mail. I, rather than share mine with my wife, needed one of my own. So I went down to the city county building and went into the county clerk's office where they have the voting information and asked for one. They gladly gave one to me, and then I got a chance to talk to the county clerk herself, Jean Albuquerque, whom also will be getting my vote. She's been a really great public servant for the people of Garfield County. So she'll be getting my vote. I talked to her for a little bit and talked to her about being a potential poll observer or watcher. She gave me a lot of great information in regards to that. So, again, Jean's done a great job. I can't remember who it is that's running against her, but honestly, I feel like Jean has been really great. I've had many interactions with her, being an activist and going in and asking about elections and about voting and the different times and things that were going on. We had a recall election in this area at one time, so I've always had really great interactions with Jean, and she's always been super, super informative. There couldn't be a better public servant, in my opinion, and for the people of Garfield County. So get yourselves out there, as my opinion, and vote for Jean if you're a local here in Garfield County. And I'll be talking about this area here, not only Colorado politics and state politics, but this area here, Garfield County, is the county that I live in, and I also live in District 57 here, U.S. House District 57 here in Colorado. And I would just I'm going to go through a few of our things that I noticed in our blue book for the people here in Colorado and locally that are important. And I'm not going to go through, like I said, every single thing, but we're going to go through some of the candidates, and we're going to go through some of the issues. And hopefully I'll be giving service back to my fellows here in Colorado. They've all been very good to me. We've got a really great community here. It's a very mixed community, very diverse in this valley. Running the spectrum, very purple in a lot of ways. What I like about Colorado is they're very independent folks. You know, like I mentioned before, they're a very deep purple state. But part of that is because the independent nature, those who are on the far left or more independent-minded, or even somewhere more along the libertarian-minded folks, they don't like labels. A lot of them don't like labels, so they're like they like the unaffiliated, they like being independent, and they're real skeptical of the establishment, politics, and duopoly as they rightfully should be. So, on a state level, we've got Walker Stapleton and Jared Polis squaring off for the position of governor of Colorado. The governorship will be being vacated by John Hickenlooper. He was not a very effective governor. He's been kind of a mealy-mouthed governor, in my opinion. Very establishment, very pro-establishment, very corporate establishment. In my opinion, he's served very little use for people other than to be just another corporate talking, another corporate tool, just another person, another neoliberal policy person who feels satisfied with incrementalism and the idea of doing these mock battles and controlled opposition of the two corporate controlled establishment parties. So, in my opinion, it's a good thing that John will be exiting. Unfortunately, we don't have a whole lot of options that are viable, in my opinion, coming up against this. Like I said, Jared Polis and Walker Stapleton. Walker Stapleton, the Republican challenger for this. Jared Polis, who's a U.S. congressman here in Colorado. And in my opinion, he's been kind of a mixed bag. He's had really good voting record on many things. But he's also, to keep in mind, that he's also the third wealthiest member of the U.S. Congress, U.S. House of Representatives. So Those things are very important to keep in mind. He's also come out against local proposition, which we'll talk about later, which is Prop 112, 2,500-foot setback for oil and gas drilling and fracking. Now, I'm completely for this measure, and I'll mention this again, but those who are not for this measure are not likely to garner my vote. So there you have it. Jared Polis, you want to check into him, the Democrat running for governor, and he's voted alongside Bernie Sanders and Tulsi Gabbard on voting against many military spending bills, which I can respect. I also don't have much respect for anybody who's against trying to end the fracking industry here in Colorado and moving forward with clean energies and a Green New Deal plan of some sort. Jared Polis does not offer any of those things, any of those solutions in any way. So just a little heads up on that. Also, another really important, Scott Tipton, which is our U.S. Senator, Scott Tipton, will be squaring off against Diane Mish Bush. Now, the Republican incumbent has not been a very effective person, in my opinion. He's voted against veterans' needs. He's voted against people's needs. He's a Republican, so he's really more pro-corporation than pro-people. I'll maintain that with just about anybody and have that discussion with them heartily if they would like to. And also, anybody who's listening, please leave your comments in our YouTube station and feed. I will try to read them and respond to them. And if you feel like there's anything I've missed in some of this cast or any of the other casts, please let me know, and I'll try to address those with us. We're trying to step forward and move forward all the time. Many independent news media organizations have been removed from Twitter and Facebook and other social media platforms. We're trying to stay ahead of that curve. We don't have enough followers yet to get removed, but who knows someday. We'll try to get there. Our next, so Diane Mishbush, I want to also talk about. She's seems to be a very activist-minded person. She's already the House Representative for District 27 here in Colorado. She is known for being someone who can work across the aisle on many issues, even contentious ones. It's said that she's not taking any corporate donations for her candidacy, also running as a Democrat. Many of the things I highly recommend looking into her. If there's any Democrat in any of the races throughout the state of Colorado that I'm likely to vote for, it's Diane. It seems like she has a lot of the right values, a lot of the right ideas, and the right kind of background to get us where we need to go here in Colorado, if not someone who would be a valuable ally for those progressives and Green Party people who choose to run for office in the future, and hopefully she'll still be there for you to be able to reach across the aisle and build great political coalitions with to move social programs forward. One of our other local contests is District 57, U.S. House District 57, which I live in. Bob Rankin is our representative there. He's a Republican, very pro-fracking, anti-112, very pro-industry, like you expect most Republicans to be. I shouldn't have to keep repeating that, honestly. I feel like that's one of those it's a given sort of things. You know, it's less of a given with the Democrats because they paint themselves as being something else while continuing to take the donations. So in that, I want to mention Colin Wilhelm, who is Bob Rankin's competition for the seat. He's a lawyer. From what I've gotten to know about him, he doesn't have bad ideas. He's just not great ideas. He's an incrementalist. He's for capitalizing on or expanding upon the success we've had here in Colorado with our Medicaid expansion. Even though the ACA was not a great piece of legislation or help for healthcare overall, those things, the expansions of Medicaid and things like that to lower income families, was it was super important and really good. And he's for that. He's actually for and running on a lot of healthcare issues, including an incrementally getting closer to single payer healthcare plan, which I am entirely for. Here, even more locally, and this is one of my favorite races because commissioners' races around here are really contentious, and they're really important because the commissioners tend to, they tend to be the first on the line in dealing with a lot of these extraction industries and the real estate and tourist industries and their local chambers of commerce and what have you. So these people are super important. People misunderstand their positions and how important commissioners really are. Right now, we've got the Republican incumbent Tom Jankowski squaring off against Democrat challenger Paula Stebb. Now, Tom Jankowski is he's the CEO or general manager of Sunlight Ski Corporation. Owner also, I would believe. He's been there for a real long time. He's got some ski and snowboard awards for being there and being such a great tourist place. Tom, as most Republicans, is very, very pro fracking and pro oil and gas and pro real estate industry. Paula Stebb failed to really separate herself very much from him during their actual debates, and he actually tried to hold her to the fire on it a little bit, but when asked about the Proposition 112, she hedged at it and said it was complicated, and she kind of fell in between both arguments, or, could relate to both arguments, and he said that's not really an answer, which he's absolutely right. I would point out, though, that Tom, as the CEO and manager of Sunlight, when he was running for office, when he was running for commissioner, I believe he promised or said that he would step down from that position, divest himself from that position because of the conflict of interest. He did not do that. Not that it's making an argument to vote for Paula Stebb necessarily. I'm just pointing out one of the facts is if you happen to be weighing the consequence of voting for one or the other of these people. Paula Stebb seems to be a magazine, like a tourist magazine editor, mogul of some sort. She doesn't really seem very different, and like I said, she hedged at the question on the 112 and talked about protecting wealth here in Colorado. So her campaign, is a step in the right direction. Quickly, Tom Jankowski capitalized on the concept and said it's a step in the wrong direction. And I'm going to say, if Paula Stebb is a step in any direction, it's probably an incremental step. It's probably a baby step. And nothing more than that. I just don't see her as differentiating herself enough from the corporate plutocracy. I don't see her and duopoly. I don't see her differentiating herself enough from Tom Jankowski or the Republicans. And Democrats and Republicans, to me, are pretty much more alike with each other and their values and ideas than they are with most average workaday people. And that's why most people in this country either don't vote or vote for third parties or write-in people. Third parties is a misnomer. Write-in non-corporate parties, non-establishment parties like the Green Party and the Libertarians.